We want to prove the coefficients of the cyclotomic polynomial are integers. So for this we will use induction. For n equals to 1 the case is obviously true. We have x minus 1 as the cyclotomic polynomial, and you can see the coefficients are integers. Now we assume it is true for d less than n. So we write the general factorization of xn minus 1 in terms of cyclotomic polynomials. So you write the nth part here, and all other d's you club together. So for d less than n, you take their products as phi d. So this factor right here, that is d divides n and d not equal to n, this you put it as f of x. So you have this equals to f of x times phi of nx. Now this f of x is monic with coefficients in z. The same reason why phi of n is monic. It's just a product of terms like this, x minus the primitive root and then again x minus another primitive root and so on. So you have this factorization here. So now you divide both sides by f of x. So f of x divides xn minus 1 in rationals or over rationals. Now you can see that it obviously divides rationals. You adjoin your primitive root of unity to it, it will obviously divide it. But this division algorithm is kind of unique, so it will carry over to or descend down to rationals also. So we see there is a non-trivial factorization of xn minus 1 over rationals. So this holds. So this much is very clear just from this statement here. So we have a non-trivial factorization of xn minus 1. So now focus on Gauss's lemma. So Gauss's lemma says non-trivial factorization over rationals implies non-trivial factorizations over integers. So this statement, which I am writing right here, this carries over from rationals to integers. So fx divides xn minus 1 over integers. So now you can see that this, if fx divides this part, the only thing you're remaining is this. So this is the nth cyclotomic polynomial. So this cyclotomic polynomial has coefficients in integers, because if fx divides this over integers, then whatever you get here will have coefficients in integers, and that's why we get phi of n has coefficients in integers. So the next thing we want to prove is that this cyclotomic polynomial is irreducible over integers. So let phi of n factorize as f times g, where f is monic and irreducible. So its roots are sum of the primitive nth roots of unity. So sum of the primitive nth roots of unity. So these are precisely the roots which are part of this phi of n polynomial. Now we want to show that all the primitive nth roots of unity are roots of f, because all these primitive nth roots are anyway roots of, these are roots of our cyclotomic polynomial, of our nth cyclotomic polynomial. So we want to say that all the roots of phi of n are also the roots of f. So right now if you factorize like this, some of the roots of phi of n are roots of f. So how do we show this? So we have to show this that if zeta is a root of f, this would imply zeta of I is also a root of f, where greatest common divisor of I and n is 1. So that is, I is relatively prime to n. And that is precisely what the condition for primitive root was also there, as we saw in the previous lecture, that this I and this n have to be relatively prime for the root to be primitive. So this has to be 1. Now this I, for this greatest common divisor of I and n to be 1, we know that I has to be some product of some primes which do not divide n. I is after all an integer, so it is a product of primes, and those primes should not divide n. So what we want to show instead of this is, we want to show this: if zeta is a root of f, this should imply the zeta to the power of p is also root of f for all p which do not divide n. So instead of this statement, we want to show this statement. So if this thing holds, then obviously all primitive roots of unity would lie in f. Obviously, because this statement is holding. If zeta is a root of f, you take some root of f, and then its pth power is also root of f for all p which do not divide n. So your greatest common divisor would again be 1, and therefore f would end up containing all the primitive roots of unity. So suppose zeta is a root of f, but zeta to the power of p is not a root of f, where p does not divide n. So this will lead us to a contradiction, which would immediately imply that our original statement that zeta p is a root of f for all p not dividing n, this statement holds. So we want a contradiction. So if zeta p does not lie in the roots of f, if p does not divide n, then obviously zeta p is a primitive root if p does not divide n, because we know that phi of n is nothing but product of primitive roots of unity, and therefore this has to be root of the other factor, g of x. So g of zeta to the power of p is 0. So this implies zeta is a root of gxp. So obviously, because if you put zeta here, you again get the g of zeta to the power of p is 0. So now start taking greatest common divisor. So you see zeta is a root of gxp and zeta is a root of f. So that means if you take greatest common divisor of f and gxp over this integers, then this is not equal to 1. They have a common root, so it cannot be equal to 1. So now you do mod p reduction. So if you do modulo p reduction, you get f bar of x. Here you get g bar of x to the power of p, and again it is not equal to 1. But in the finite field, this fp, g bar of xp is g bar of x. So this we have shown by modulo p binomial theorem, that this will be equal, and this also follows from, say, ap equals to a in the field of characteristic p, and it's a finite field. So therefore f bar and g bar have a common factor. So these two have a common factor. So instead of g bar xp, you can say g bar of x here, because we are working in a finite field. So this becomes greatest common divisor of f bar and g bar is not 1. So they have a common factor. Now this phi n bar, this is a product of f bar and g bar. Now if they have a common factor, this common factor gets multiplied. So this becomes a multiple root of phi bar of n. So phi bar of n in this finite field, this has a multiple root. So this implies that this xn minus 1 has multiple roots, because after all, xn minus 1 is this product phi 1 and then whatever factors which divide n, and you end up with phi n. So if this has multiple roots, so those multiple roots are also multiple roots here. So this means that xn minus 1 over finite field has multiple roots, and this will lead us to a contradiction. So notice that the roots of xn minus 1 are distinct. So all the roots of xn minus 1 are distinct, and this is precisely because you take the derivative of this is n xn minus 1, and this derivative is not 0 simultaneously because p does not divide n in the finite field. So this is not 0, and you can see the only root of the derivative is 0. So the derivative has only 0 as a root. So if the root of derivative is 0, and here 0 is not a root, so they are not sharing any roots. Xn minus 1 and its derivative do not share a root, so therefore there are no multiple roots here, and therefore roots of xn minus 1 are distinct. So this we had this trick we had discussed before, how to use derivative and the polynomial to find whether it has repeated roots or not. So we have been able to reach a contradiction right here, and this contradiction means that our this statement to start with was wrong, that zeta is a root of f, but zeta to the power of p is not a root of f. So if zeta is a root of f, this implies zeta to the power of p is also a root of f for all p which do not divide n. So if you have all these p which do not divide n, that means that you can have zeta to the power of I is also a root of f for all I such that greatest common divisor of I and n is 1. So you basically have all primitive roots which are roots of unity but become roots of f. So now we have this irreducible polynomial. So phi of n is irreducible in zeta of x, and the root of this is our primitive root of unity, zeta n. So you immediately get rationals, you join zeta into it over rational. So this degree of extension is precisely degree of our irreducible polynomial here, and you know the degree of our cyclotomic polynomial is this var phi of n, which is Euler's phi function, and this is, recall, number of integers which are relatively prime to n. So this is number of integers which are relatively prime to n. So every time you adjoin this zeta and zeta 2, zeta 3, whatever, so once you want to compute the degree of extension, you just count the number of integers which are relatively prime to n. So you just do a counting. So counting of integers which are relatively prime to n, and that immediately gives you the degree of extension.